also studied in the Satipatthana Sutra how we have to break down the body into different parts to understand that all this is just an accumulation which disintegrates over a period of time. Same, if you look at it, is with feelings, the mind and the dharma also. And the most amazing thing in the practice of Sunya is we do that in the same order. First body, but for you to understand the feelings, you need the body, because only through the body you can see the feelings. Only through the feelings only through the mind you can see the feelings, because mind watches on the feelings. And only through dharma you can understand the mind. So you should understand the relationship all four. So the journey to the next is always through the first. So from the body we see the feelings. From the feelings we understand the mind. From the mind we see the dharma clearly. So remember these four steps, okay? So namaste and very good morning to everyone. We are back on Sunday at the to study the Maha Anapana Smriti Sutra. Okay, so we are here to do chapter 7 of the Maha Anapana Smriti Sutra. This chapter we're going to study about awareness of feeling, mind and dharma. Okay, so let's start the chapter 7 today. Okay, so to recap again, we are doing the Maha Anapana Smriti Sutra. The original Sanskrit version was compiled by Anshekar, also called as Anshegao in Chinese. He was a Persian king who translated the Sanskrit versions by compiling them into Chinese. And thanks to Dr. Lim, who has been able to translate that back from Chinese to English so that we have access to it. So Dr. Lim, also known by the name of Acharya Nagajiv. So thanks to him that we have the availability of this sutra that we can study now. Then we did what is very important, that are we practicing something that was practiced by Buddha? Yes, Buddha practiced the Anapana. And we did study that. So all those chapters 1 to 6, please go through before we proceed for the newcomers to chapter 7. So starting chapter 7. Yesterday we saw how focusing on the body is very important when you are doing the 6 gates. And when you came to the 5th gate, when you realized returning was important. But the body, we were analyzing the body, and we were seeing that how the body was to be broken down into different parts. So in our green belt also, in Sunya practice, we scan the body completely. Now moving forward, this practice of observation of the body, the feelings, the mind and the dharma is called Vipassana. And in this chapter, we are focusing more on that. Now you should understand the crux of the matter is that in Satipatthana Sutra, we studied about the 4 foundations of Smriti. The 4 foundations of Smriti were body, the feelings, the mind and the dharma. We also studied in the Satipatthana Sutra how we have to break down the body into different parts to understand that all this is just an accumulation which disintegrates over a period of time. Same, if you look at it, is with feelings, the mind and the dharma also. And the most amazing thing in the practice of Sunya is we do that in the same order. First body, but for you to understand the feelings, you need the body, because only through the body you can see the feelings. Only through the feelings only through the mind you can see the feelings, because mind watches on the feelings. And only through dharma you can understand the mind. So you should understand the relationship all 4. So the journey to the next is always through the first. So from the body, we see the feelings. From the feelings, we understand the mind. From the mind, we see the dharma clearly. So remember these 4 steps, okay? And today we're going to study chapter 7. O monks, after focusing and observing the body, a monk proceeds to observe the feeling. So after he has observed the body, now he is proceeding to observe the feeling. There are internal and external pains and pleasure cravings. Okay, in the feeling, you have only 2 types of feeling, remember. One is the good feeling and the other is the bad feeling. There is always a point where you can have a neutral feeling, but these 2 are always the reason because of which we act. With good feelings, we want it. With bad feelings, we don't want it, we reject it. So there are always internal and external pains and pleasure cravings. Pain means the bad feelings where you don't want it, because something that is painful you reject. Pleasure is something that you crave for. In order to understand the cause for the arising of pains and pleasure craving, observing both feelings is known as insight awareness or vipassana. Again, now here vipassana is to observe the feeling, both the painful feeling as well as the pleasurable feeling. Observing both is very important. When you observe that, you are practicing insight awareness or vipassana. For the external pains and pleasure, long for external fine and beautiful stuff is external pleasure. Now they are defining what is external pleasure. For the longing for external things to be good, fine, for it to be beautiful stuff out there is craving, and this craving is external pleasure. Aversion to external ugly and roughness is external pain. To not like something which is rough, which is ugly, you don't like it, that is kind of an external pain. So here you are defining 2 things. External pleasure is something that is pleasurable to the eye, that you crave for, okay, that is all external pleasure. Then external pain is something that you don't like, ugly things, something that is not smooth but rough, you don't like it, so that is external pain. The pleasant internal feeling is internal pleasure. Internally, if you feel something pleasant, that's internal pleasure. The internal anguish is internal pain, but sometimes you don't like something inside you. That internal anguish is internal pain. What is internal is inner dharma. So what is inside? Internal is inner dharma. What is external is the external cause and condition and is external dharma. Okay, so what is external is the external cause and condition and is external dharma. Remember, you have to understand dharma. As I told you, everything that has a cause and has conditions will always give rise to something, sustain, remain, decline, then finish. Okay, so here feelings are also going through the same process. So we are observing the dharma of the feelings also. That is to say, I is internal, form is external. So to explain this, they are saying I is internal, but form outside, the camera that I am looking into, is something that is external. Ear is internal, sound is external, nose is internal, smell is external, mouth is internal, taste is external, mind is internal, thought is external. Look at the object that is fine and soft to touch. Craving for it to enjoy it is pleasure. So defining pleasure, for example, when you look at the object and it's fine and soft to touch, craving for it to enjoy it is pleasure. Look at rough and ugly stuff, the mind rejects and disturbed by it is pains. So when you look at something, you see it is rough, it is ugly, you don't like it. That means it is already disturbing you. That is called pain. So here you see there is a definition very clearly. What is pleasure? Something that you want, something that you like. What is pain? Something that you don't want, something that you dislike. Both pleasure and pain, feelings, are in the realm of bad karma. Always lead to suffering at the end. Okay, now that you see, feelings is always going to be either bad or good. See, some things you will like or you will dislike. That means once you are able to get attached to like and dislike, you are already in the realm of bad karma. You are already making preferences, you are making choices. This I don't want, this I want. Then you are already cultivating bad karma according to this. So when you look at pleasure and pain, both feelings are in the realm of bad karma. The reason is very simple, attachment to something that is going to give you pleasure is very likely. When we say something you don't want, actually you don't want is also an attachment of you don't want. And that again is an attachment. Setting yourself free from all the attachments is cultivating you in the good karma, not in the bad karma. Okay. So when you are doing a practice, remember the good feeling, people feel good, don't attach. People feel bad, don't attach. People feel the pain, forget it. People feel pleasure, forget it. You do your practice. O monks, observing and holding the pains and pleasure is like a person having pains in the limbs. The mind tries not to feel the pains, but to observe the pains as though from the third person. The monk observes his own pains and pleasure as though it is not himself, but observes on the body of others. Then the mind may not attach to this pain. This is known as hold or samadhi. Now, here we are defining samadhi in terms of feelings. When you observe and hold onto the pain and the pleasure, is like a person having pains in the limb. So, if you have pains in your limb, when you observe this pain as something that is not you, as a third person, that it is happening to this body and you are not the one who is suffering with it, it is one you are just observing. You are observing and you can feel that pain. Now, at that moment, when you observe this as a third person and you watch it and remain there, that is samatha. First is to observe that is pain. Second is to remain there as if it is not affecting you, just as a third person watching something, like there is an incident happening. If two people are fighting, they are fighting. You go first observing that they are fighting is vipassana. Going there and watching them fight. Okay, imagine you are a police inspector. You go there and watch them fight. Do you think they will fight? After some time they realize, oh, the inspector has come, they go away. He did not do anything. His presence did the job. So, you should understand that your role is both. First to observe, then to remain. Remaining there is samatha. To hold on to is samatha or samadhi. We can think of it. We can also not think of it. Feel the pain but not attach to it. One loves his own body. Then one should also look at the body of others, using his mind to care for others' body. Just like he observes the pains in his own body, also belong to the practice of hold or samatha. Now, he can think of it, he cannot think about it. Feel the pain but not attach to it. Okay, one loves his own body. See, if you start loving your body, there is a kind of attachment. Then one should also look at others' body. As soon as you do this, for you to get detached of your body, you should look at others' body. Using his mind to care for others' body, then you should think about caring for others' body. Just like he observed the pains in his own body. Now, that means here is again samatha, holding on to. Holding on to what? Holding on to that feeling that this body is mine, it is so nice. Then seeing somebody else's body and saying, hey, even he has a body. What is he? Having that thing and holding on to the fact that this is a natural phenomena, pain and all this thing will happen. And you have to hold on to and observing it is basically holding on to your view or your understanding is called samatha. So whenever we hold on to something, is called samatha. Samatha will bring balance, that is samadhi. When you have to see clearly, that is vipassana. Vipassana will make things clearer to you what is exactly happening. So we do these two things. Vipassana to see clearly, samatha to hold what you want to hold on to. So these two things are very important. Now here, holding does not mean getting attached. Holding means just holding with the eye of the Vipassana, just holding on to that thing. For example, here it is saying that when you have the feeling of pleasure of your body, you should also see that that body also exists for the others. From that point of view, from the mind, when you observe that that person also has a body, you are actually generalizing stuff. This is very important and useful in counseling. Many a times when you're dealing with people with feelings, they usually are so much attached with themselves. Then what we do as a counselor, we actually generalize the stuff. Oh, you're feeling like this, but there are many who feel like this. Isn't that the situation? Once you generalize it, things start changing. Things start to become not so very important like the person felt, as if it was happening only to him. If you remember the story of the Buddha and a lady who came up with a small young child of hers who was dead, and she asked the Buddha that my child is dead, can you revive him back? And Buddha knew that the lady was suffering. The only way he could help her was to relieve her suffering. So she said, yes, surely I will revive your child. Why don't you do one thing? I need certain things. If you can get those, I will use those and revive your child. The lady was super excited. Then that finally she found there was a savior, one who could revive back the life that was gone. So she says, yes, please tell me, I'll get it. So he says, just get me one handful of rice from a house where nobody has died from the last, say, a decade or so, say 5-10 years. She says, okay, that is so easy. I'll just get it. Wait for 10-15 minutes. So she goes out, knocking doors, say, my son is dead and Buddha is about to revive him. Can you give me a handful of rice? That will help my child, to be revived back by Buddha. She says, people say, yeah, sure. But there is one condition. She tells them, I hope there is nobody who has passed away in your family in the last, say, 10 years. Oh, they said, yeah, my just grandfather passed away recently. Then she says, no, then I don't want yours. Then she goes to another house. There they tell the same thing. I lost my son last year. Somebody says that 2 months back, I lost my wife. By the time it's evening, the sun is about to set and she's still knocking doors and realizes that death is a common phenomena that is happening to everyone. When she comes back, she takes the child, buries it, does all the procedures of cremation and comes to Buddha and joins the Sangha. And Buddha did not have to explain anything to her because she had realized the truth of life. And this is exactly what we are trying to understand here, is when we think, we can also not think of it. Feel the pain but not attach to it. Okay, one loves his own body, then one should also look at the body of others. You should make it generalized. Then you will realize there will be no attachment. Okay, let's go to the next slide. O monks, the internal and external pains and pleasure are discussed constantly, because when a monk sees the object, his love for it can be strong or light. His mind is not even, and so there is differentiation. That's why a monk needs to review the way he observes. Internally, avoid ignorance. Externally, avoid differentiation. Now, how it is explained that how can a person observe, okay, Vipassana also how you should do when you're looking at your feelings. You see, I told you, to understand the body, you will always be dependent on feelings. Now, for understand the feelings, you will be dependent on the mind. So, you see, you're engaging the mind to understand the feeling and observe the feeling. Internally, externally, pains and pleasure are discussed constantly, because when a monk sees the object, his love for it can be strong or light. His mind is not even, and so there is differentiation. When he looks at it, because his mind is still able to differentiate, he is going to make the differentiation of strong and light. And once he is able to make the differentiation, what happens? As soon as that happens, you are creating either pleasure or pain. Either you like or dislike. So who did that? Because the mind was not even, mind was not still, mind was not balanced, because of which the feeling could exist. Okay. That's why a monk needs to review the way he observes. So he needs to review the way he observes. Is he observing internally and avoiding ignorance when he's doing that? That's good. When he's observing externally, is he doing that without differentiation? So internally ignorance, externally differentiation. These two things should be not involved when you are observing. O monks, the pains and pleasure for the mind and body are not the same. Okay, very clear here. Now they are differentiating between, feelings come between the body and the mind. In between both of them is feelings. Now they are saying that the pain and pleasure of the body and the mind are not going to be the same. Feeling hot and cold, pains due to injury is due to body pains. Okay, that's physical pain. Eating good meals, good transport, good clothing, feeling good, this is external pleasure. So they are defining even in the body pains, and they defined how all the kind of things that you go through, the hot and cold, the pains due to injury, that is all the body pains. But something that you, when you're eating good meals, you're going through good transport, wearing good clothes, feeling good, that is all external pleasure. Okay. For the pains of the mind, okay, the mental suffering and worry about others and worry about many things in the world, this is the pain in the mind. So what is the pain in the mind? All kinds of worry, the anxiety about what others think, what is the world is like this. Worrying, continuously worrying about somebody who is not you, about the outside world, is actually the pain in the mind. Feeling good and enjoying various pleasant sensations is the pleasure of the mind. Sometimes we feel good, we like something, our mind gets so much attached to that pleasure. That is the pleasure of the mind. So from feeling, a monk proceeds to observe the mind. Now here you see, we are moving up. From the body, we saw the feeling. From the feeling, now we are proceeding to see the mind. O monks, after the monk observes the feeling, he proceeds to observe the mind. Okay, so we finished observing the body. Because we were observing the body, we were using feelings, and we realized through feelings we can actually understand the body well. Then for feelings, we wanted to move on after we have observed the body to understand the feelings. After feelings, we went to understand basically the mind. Now we are going towards the mind. So how are we going to observe the mind? Oh monks, after the monk observes the feeling, he proceeds to observe the mind. For the observation of the form of the mind, there are two aspects. To sever the flow of the evil mind. Sever means to cut off. Okay, to sever means to cut off the flow of the evil mind. Now, mind basically does not have any form. But if you want to observe the form, if something doesn't have form, how can you observe? So, if you want to actually observe the mind, there are two aspects to it. One is to sever the flow of the evil mind. Firstly, a monk has to remove the craving of the eye, ear, nose, mouth and body, all the five senses. He has to remove that craving out. Second is to detach from sight, sound, smell, taste, touch and thinking. These are the 6 corrupted dust that can harm the mind. So, there are two aspects. How do you actually see the form of the mind? One is to cut off the flow of evil mind. What is an evil mind? The mind that actually craves for something. Like the eye wanting to see something. When we close our eyes and we practice, we actually want to open and we want to see. That is why. But we close it little bit. We don't openly see. That is why when you look at it, we are stopping the craving of the eye, the ear. We want to listen to music and practice meditation, but that also we cut off in Sunya. no listening, no music, nothing, to cut off the craving of the evil mind. Then nose, no incense sticks, nothing, we don't do any drama. Then for mouth, there is nothing, no chanting, we do nothing, even pleasurable taste, nothing is there. Even sensation, we sit down wherever it is, not pleasurable, nice high seat and comfortable seat, just enough for us to sit down comfortably, that's it. So the second one is to detach from the object of the senses, like the sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, thinking. So when you detach from this object and the subject of that, the mind is actually being taken away, and you can see the form of the mind. Okay, because these 6 corrupted things are called as the dust, and they can harm the mind. For observation, at first people do not know whether the body is rough or fine, but due to feeling, they start to sense it. Then we must use the mind to mind observation to form to overcome it. So now here they are explaining for observation, for seeing. At first people do not know whether the body is rough or fine. So how do you do that? It's based on the feelings. When you sense your feeling, you realize, oh, my body is going through that. So when you're practicing Sunya, suddenly you realize, oh, I have this pain, I have that pain, I have this problem, that is problem, I cough. All those symptoms that start showing up is the feelings that are expressing itself. Because of the feelings, you can actually understand the state of your body. So they start. Then we must use the mind-to-mind observation of form to overcome it. Then we actually use the mind-to-mind observation to overcome it. Remember yesterday I told you, mind becomes whatever thing it is attached with. Okay, it's like water, you know. Water, when you put poison in it, it becomes poisonous water. When you put nectar in it, it becomes nectared water. Anything. So mind is neutral. So most of the stuff that it associates with, it becomes like that. So you need to use the mind to observe the mind. So, okay. This is the practice of mind-to-mind observation on form. For holding or focusing on the mind is when the lust sensation arises. Control and not to commit a wrong act. When about to get angry, to control and not to be angry. When become greedy, control the craving and stop it. For all these and others, one does not attach to any of them, is the practice of to observe and to hold. Now, here they are saying, how do you observe the mind? Okay, first is cutting away from all the sensations, all the organs of sensations, we cut that off so that there is only the form of the mind that we can see. Second is, how do you hold and focus on the mind? Is when you have a sensation, a lust sensation. If the organs want to see something, you want to have that sensation, when it arises, you are able to control and not commit into action. My mind says, I want to see, oh, I heard the voice of somebody walking in. So I want to open the eyes, but I am able to control it because I am practicing. At that point, you are controlling your senses. So you are practicing what we call is focusing on the mind. Okay, we don't do the act, wrong act. When about to get angry, somebody irritates you and you're controlling not to get angry. You're making sure that the horse that wants to run away, you're holding on to the horse so that it doesn't run away. So that is how you actually focus and hold the mind. When you have greed coming in, when you have craving, you're able to stop it. That's another way in which you hold the mind. For all these, you should understand that we do not attach to any of them. This is the practice to observe and hold the mind. This is in line with the 37 Bodhi paths. We are going to study that later. What are 37 Bodhi paths? But it is in line with this. Always think of the paths and never deviate from it. Is observe and hold. That is called samatha. So, you see, when we are doing observing the mind, vipassana, we are not letting go of samatha. Because with vipassana, we can see, but to hold on to what you want to do is very important. So, it's like we can see the road, but to make sure that you're driving along the road and not letting go of the road is samatha. But to see the road, when it turns, when it is straight, when it is up, when it is down, is called vipassana. To see, but to hold on to the road. These are called vipassana and samatha. Here we are talking about samatha. Always think of the paths and never deviate from it. Is observe and hold, or samatha. Samatha is the way to observe and hold the mind so that one can enter into samadhi. Remember, we also studied that at every level you have to enter into samadhi. At every level you should be able to observe that the mind is purified or not purified. There are corruptions or not corruptions. So at every step, every belt of Sunya, you are doing samatha and vipassana. You're doing both, but flip-flopping. Sometimes more of one, sometimes less of the other. And you will see this flip-flop always when you're practicing. People always think that their body is real. Okay? But after true observation, our body is unclean and not the self. Why is it so? We may have eyes to see the form, but the eye is not the body. Form is not the body. Why is it so? Because when a person is dead, even if he has eyes, he can see nothing. Even if there is form, it has nothing to do with him anymore. So, the body is impermanent. Now, we are understanding why we are able to, the impermanence. How do we see the impermanence of the body? Because even people think that the body is real. But when we look through the true eyes of vipassana, hold on to the understanding of it, we realize that even the eyes that sees a form, we see this is real and the form is real. But when we are dead, the eye is still there and the form is still there, but we still cannot experience it. That means we are neither the eye, we are neither the form. We are something else. So that self-realization is what we are trying to say. So do not get even attached to the body, because body is not what you are. The body is impermanent. Remember, we studied this. This is the dharma. Okay, so dharma of the body. We are studying the dharma of the mind. We are studying the feelings. We are studying the dharma of the mind, and we are studying the dharma of the dharma also. Okay. The same applies to the mind. Why is it so? Because the mind has no form. It cannot be stopped. But upon death, it is gone. Similarly, this is applied to ear, nose, mouth, body and thought. When you realize these, then you know the way to observe and hold samatha. You see, because everything is in a constant flux, we get carried away. We move along. But once you know to hold, you don't get carried away. That is what samatha is all about. So, when we realize that even the mind is not permanent, one day when we die, the mind is gone. People think the mind is what is going to travel. No. It's not. With that, like the eye and the object that it sees the form, they both go away. Similarly, the mind and its thoughts, they go away. To know this is samatha. Do not think of corruption of mind, and do not decide to hold or not to hold. Because striving to hold or not to hold is still the act of the mind. Sometimes we want to hold something. That's also an act of the mind. Sometimes we don't want to hold something. It's still an act of mind. So in Sunya, we make sure we put in no effort, mental effort to either hold on to things or to let go of things. We let it be done naturally through our process. Okay. So we need to detach ourselves even from the sensation of wanting to hold, to worry about the mind is corrupted or not. Just detach from it. Detach from the mind. Okay. So, and the mind has to detach from its senses. Senses have to detach from the objects of its senses. So, everything is detachment practice. To cut off death and life, one can achieve the miracle. When the mind is thinking, it is birth. We studied this in the previous chapters. Whenever the mind starts its action, what is its action? Is to think. Once thought comes in, birth has happened. Okay. So, to cut off from death and life, one can achieve the miracle. What is the miracle? We want to be free. That is what. But for freedom, you have to cut off from death and life. Okay. When the mind is thinking, birth is there. When the mind is not thinking, it is dead. Those who have the miracle can fly over space. But most importantly, we should cut off from the cycle of death and life. Okay, that is most important. You can have the miracle, but we don't want even the miracle. We want to cut off from this whole cycle. To obtain miracles, there are 5 practices in the mind. Now, you see, every day even suffering is born and it will die. A new suffering will come. Sometimes suffering just gets worse and worse and worse. So sometimes somebody's misery in life just gets horrible over a period of time. So this suffering just keeps on giving birth and birth and birth to new sufferings. So how do I end the birthing of the suffering? Stop it. Even the death of the old so that the new one doesn't come. How do I get that out? Is to obtain the miracles. There are 5 practices in the mind. Okay, so now since we are studying the mind and we are observing the mind, we are practicing on the mind. The 5 practices. 1, joy. Joy is something that makes you feel good, happy. Okay, for doing that. It should be something that comes automatically. The mind is the reason why you will be joyful to do something. You remember, pleasure is also the part of the mind. Okay, the mind chooses, the feelings come in, but you remember how do you make the feelings come in? Because the mind is observing it. So mind is the place where you can actually instill a feeling of joy in your feelings. So joy. Second is faith. Third is effort. Fourth is concentration. And 5th is magical power. When you want these 5 practices in the mind, you will be able to cultivate and obtain the miracles. Practice the 4 excellent practices. Okay. Now there are 4 excellent practices. One is the will to practice, the effort to practice, focus of the mind, and observation of the mind. Without exhausting the effort, one can only attain the 5 miracles from joy to magical power, but cannot deliver himself from death and life. So if one practices the 5 practices, he can get all from 1 to 5. He can get all those, but yet he is not delivered from the death and life. He is not delivered. So till the practice of mind, if people only practice till the point of mind, you will get joy in what you're practicing. You might have faith, you put in the effort, your concentration, you might get some magical powers, but yet you're not out of the cycle of life and death. If applied effort fully, now they're saying first is you put in the effort, okay, without exhausting, means without troubling yourself, we put in effort, you can get these 5. When you apply effort fully, there is no room left for anything else. One is, see, they are talking about 2 efforts. One is without exhausting the effort, means you have 100% of your effort. You are making sure that you don't exhaust full. You put 90% and you practice this 5. You might get all these 5 miracles. The other is fully exhaust. Put in full effort, okay, can achieve the 6th miracle. Not 5, but you can also get the 6th if you give 100% to something. The 6th one is to cut off from death and life. To exhaust and apply the effort fully means the mind detaches from all dharma and cling to nothing. Now to explain this, let me give you an example. You see, you are sinking in the water. Okay, you want to hold on to something. You see a stick, it's a little far. You are giving, say, 95% effort to hold on to it. But 5% you're still there, somehow, because something is keeping you still not sinking you inside. Something is holding you there, but it is not going to hold me long. You want to hold it so that you don't sink, but you see something that is going to save you. you actually want to hold on to it. But with 95%, you might have you might hold it, but you will not save yourself, because you still will be pulled down, because that 5% is going to be still pulling you down. But imagine a person realizes that that's the only thing I have, that little gap, I want to hold on to it. He lets go of this completely. 0 here, 100% there. And he jumps and takes that thing and holds it. That effort of giving 100% which is going to give you the sixth miracle, that is going to cut you from the life and death situation. Right? Very, very important. So now, joy, faith, effort, concentration, these all can be achieved through practice. Even if you do half-heartedly practice, you put in little effort to practice, you're going to get all this. You might also get magical power with the practice of Sunya. Okay, but if you really want to have the sixth miracle to get out of the cycle of life and death of anything. Now remember, again I'm going, where is birth? Is when thinking comes. So when I'm talking about life and death, don't think only about you being born and dying. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about even a thought being born and thought dying. Okay? Because it's in the thought that birth happens. So when the mind actually stops thinking, you can see things as it is. Very, very important. So how do I stop the cycle of birth and death? How do I stop from my mind reproducing thoughts after thoughts after thoughts? Is when I actually give 100%, okay, into the practice. That's the only way you get the sixth miracle. Oh monks, after the mind, the monk proceeds to observe the dharma. Now, at this point, we realize that even if I get miracles on practicing on the mind, it is not enough. I need to give more than that. So, how do I see the mind? Is because of a dharma, because I understand the dharma. Now, here, after the mind, the monk proceeds to observe the dharma. There are 5 factors that lead to 4 excellent practices. What are the 5 factors? That is faith, effort, mindfulness, focus, and wisdom. So, faith, effort, mindfulness, focus, and wisdom are the 5 factors that will lead you to have access to the 4 excellent practices. These are 5 factors that lead to 4 excellent practices. If a monk, next slide, there are 5 factors that lead to 4 excellent practices. If a monk acts diligently, now I have actually highlighted that in red, saying acts diligently, it becomes the 6th factor. What becomes the 6th factor? When he practices all 5 diligently, sincerely, then that sincerity also becomes the 6th factor. All of these factors can be classified under faith, which is the basis of the 4 excellent practices. Okay. When I say excellent practices, we are talking about the 6 parameters. So, the 4 parameters. What are the 4 parameters we saw, that when we have to give and all those things. Let me see. Here it is. What are the 4 excellent practices? One is will to practice, the effort to practice, focus of the mind, and observation of the mind. The 4 things. Okay. Follow joy, awareness, effort, concentration, and resultant wisdom is to follow the 5 roots. I to body only. It is not a complete practice. Without following the dharma, one cannot cut off death and life. So how to cut off from death and life? How to cut up and make sure that the mind becomes completely still so that there is no birth? Is by following the dharma. Follow joy, awareness, effort, concentration, even the resultant wisdom is to follow the 5 roots of the I, okay, and to body only. It is not a complete practice. So here, if you do not practice or actually understand dharma, then you will not be actually doing a complete practice. That is why if you see in Sunya, we stress equal importance to practice as well as the dharma teaching, all the sutra teaching, because through that we get the awareness, we get the understanding, and we can see things clearly also. So this is very important, that along with practice, sutra studying is also very, very, very important. Okay. O monks, from joy, a monk can enter into samadhi. Now they are defining how from joy a monk can enter into samadhi. As he follows good practice, from exertion a monk can enter into samadhi. With good practice also he can enter into samadhi. As he puts up good effort also, okay, from awareness, entering into samadhi is good concentration of mind. Okay, let me read that again. O monks, from joy a monk can enter into samadhi as he follows the good practice. Okay, because he follows the good practice, even joy can lead him to samadhi. He's practicing diligently, doing his 9 to 0, 29 to 0, 99 to 0, observing the double count, observing no count, doing all those practice, every belt is doing with sincerity, good practice, he can go into samadhi. Okay. From exertion, a monk can enter into samadhi as he puts up good effort. Even by exerting effort, one is with joy, the other with effort also he can enter samadhi, because he's putting good effort. From awareness, entering into samadhi is good concentration of the mind, because he's able to concentrate well on his mind, he cultivates awareness, and with that he can enter into samadhi. From giving and entering into samadhi is performing the right practice. When you do the good practice of giving, helping others, and giving yourself 100% to something that you're doing, is also entering into samadhi. O monks, if the monk has not entered into vipassana, must analyze and introspect himself how to enter into vipassana practice. Means when you are practicing, you have entered into samadhi, you have seen or able to focus, but you can still not see clearly. Then you need to understand why is your vipassana practice not yet actually being fruiting up. Whatever one observes should concentrate on it and not deviate from it. Because when you are practicing, you can observe. And when you observe, the mind tends to let go of it and move on into other things. But because of samatha practice, you can actually observe even the problems. You see, people tend to have the habit of letting go of problems, okay, by just ignoring it. But by letting go of that, it doesn't solve the problem, right? Your problem will still be there. So one needs to observe that very, very, and hold on to and understand it. Okay. Now hold on to and attachment are two different things. Hold on to is through samatha. Through mental practice, you hold on to it voluntarily. Attachment is due to conditioning, because you want, you crave for it. Here, the choice is not mental, it is your choice. Because you want to see things clearly, that is why when you see it clearly, you hold on to it. To achieve vipassana, there is one good way to prevent the mind from being corrupted. That is to practice the dhyana. So, how can one actually practice and achieve vipassana? Is through the practice of dhyana. The dhyana can be practiced in two ways. Now, dhyana also they have divided into two ways of practice. One is to observe the body, observe the mind, and observe the breathing. So, to observe the body, observe the mind, and observe the breathing, you can practice dhyana. Second is sometimes to observe, have the form, and sometimes to observe the have not, the emptiness. Based on the conditions faced by the monk, he observes it clearly. So, the other is to observe what is there and what is not there. When you observe that, one is the body, mind, and the breathing. You observe that. So that's one way of doing dhyana. The other way is to observe what is there and what is not there. What you have and what you don't have. When you practice on form and emptiness, and you are able to observe both, you are actually practicing vipassana. Okay, that is also dhyana. Now, when we practice Sunya, we are actually what we are doing this exactly. We observe the body, we observe the mind, we know what the mind is going here and there. When we lose count, we observe the breathing also. So we are doing this. But we are also doing 100% dhyana. Why? Because the second part also we are doing. We also observe, hey, I'm not getting any disturbing thoughts. So I don't have disturbing thoughts is what you have observed. I have disturbing thoughts, you observe that. I have pain, you observe that. I don't have pain, you observe that. All the have and the have nots, you see. You see form, you see emptiness. You see there is no feeling, you see there is feeling. You see there is mind arising, you see there is mind not arising. Everything you are able to see. So you are actually practicing dhyana when you do shunya. So remember these two ways in which you can practice dhyana. O monks, one has to stop the corruption of mind. Only then he can observe clearly. We have learned that yesterday also. How do I see clearly? Get the mind to stop its corruption. What is its corruptions? Cravings, or hating something or declining something. The yes and the no that the mind does. We have to stop that. Extinguishing the corruption of the mind and observation is known as vipassana. When you extinguish the corruption of the mind and observe without a corrupted mind, then you are actually practicing vipassana. Yesterday we saw that greed, then your anger, and your the other thing, the poisons that we studied yesterday, the 3 poisons. These basically are the corruptions of mind. But having nothing of that in your practice when you're practicing is actually practicing vipassana without any corrupted mind, a pure mind. If corruption is not removed, one cannot see the dharma. When the corruptions are still there, you will never see the dharma, the true nature of things. Only when the corruption is removed, one can observe the dharma. Only and only with a pure mind, with a clear mind, one can see things as they are, the true nature of things, dharma. To stop corruption, one should realize what corruption is and overcome it. Do not let the mind attach or cling to anything. This is samatha. Making sure you understand what the corruptions are, making sure that you don't let the mind attach to any of those, making sure that we keep ourselves detached from that is samatha. Okay. So the samadhi is focused on the mind and detaches from it. So samadhi is focusing on the mind, okay, and detaching from it. You're focusing on the mind, but not attaching yourself with the mind. It's again, you detach yourself from it also. Once the corruption is overcome, then one can practice vipassana. After you have struck the right balance, after you have held the thing very nicely, it's in your control, you are able to hold on to things, then you should practice vipassana. This is samatha vipassana, 2 methods for us to practice. Now, it's like the horse example, First, the horse is corrupted, moving here and there, not listening to you. First is to settle down the horse. Once the horse is settled down, once it is ready, then you actually ride it. So, once your mind is settled, not corrupted, completely still, you practice vipassana. You can see clearly only and only with a settled mind, an uncorrupted mind. O monks, a monk practices 4 noble truths to cleanse his actions, cleanse his mind gradually. So, for practicing the cleaning of his actions and to clean his mind gradually, he has to practice the 4 noble truths. This is to understand that the true nature of the world is suffering. Okay. So, how do you practice the 4 noble truths? 1 is to understand the first truth of the world, that the world is full of suffering. A monk must detach from all actions that lead to corruption. Hence, anything that is going to corrupt the mind, one has to actually detach from that. He must know, once the suffering has ended, what is the final stage he goes into? The nirvana. He should know when all this suffering is ended, where will he enter into? A state of complete stillness. That is what we call nirvana. A monk keeps practicing until he is enlightened. We cleanse our mind by detaching from the 6 roots, I to thinking, okay, and the 6 bounds, sight to thoughts. That is why only through dharma can one be delivered from death and life. Practice meditation without observing and understanding the dharma, the monk cannot be delivered from rebirth. So to practice meditation without observing and understanding dharma, dharma means, again I am reminding, something coming into existence and then going away, impermanence. Okay, the monk cannot be delivered from rebirth. So when we realize that impermanence of things, automatically, because we understand the dharma, we are able to cultivate continuously the right and good practices. We are able to see the four noble truths. That is, one is that the world is full of suffering. Second, that there has to be a cause to this suffering. Third, if there is a cause that has given effect to this suffering, there has to be a way to stop the cause, or to slow down the cause, or to slow down the effect of that. Okay, that is through conditioning. Fourth is there is a path that leads us to end suffering. Okay, so this is the four noble truths. Exactly like what we are saying, the mind has the habit of wandering. We know that. That is the first truth. The mind wanders here and there. But there has to be a cause that triggers the wandering of the mind. Second, the cause is there. If we can find out the cause, we can actually train or condition ourselves so that the cause does not give result to a wandering mind, but actually conditions it to be the focused mind. Okay, how is that possible? Is through a path, through a practice, and that is exactly what Sunya practice is. Sunya practices then conditions the mind to remain focused and not wander here and there. Once you are in focus, once you are able to hold on to that samatha, and you are able to see clearly through the life's problem, there is no more suffering. You are free from suffering. The mind, which has the habit of giving birth to thoughts keep on worrying you about the future, about the past and everything, that almost stops. Because it stops, it is still, you see things clearly, you get the vipassana eye. Because you get to see things clearly as they are, you are able to act with a still mind, which is good karma. Good karma gives you the supreme merits, which becomes fortune for you. The good fortune comes in. Because of good fortunes, you see the miracles of life, and that's exactly where Shunya leads you to. Okay, it ends all kind of suffering. No more suffering will ever trouble you. That's where this 7th chapter has taken us to, Vipassana. And we might see you again next Saturday, Sunday, with another chapter 8 of the MAS, the Maha Anapana Smriti Sutra. Remember, MAS only actually adds up to our faith, builds us more trust that what we are practicing Shunya is going to lead us to end the suffering that actually bothers us. And hence, keep on practicing diligently, because the diligent factor of your practice is the 6th miracle that you can cultivate to see how you will be severed or cut through all the suffering of life. Okay, until then, see you. Bye-bye. Thank you and namaste.